Good morning, YouTube family. Good morning, viewers all over the land. Good morning, St. Paul Christian Fellowship. All of you who are a part of our viewing audience, good morning, good morning. This is Pastor Antonio Woolard with my right-hand man, Deacon Carl Jones, with St. Paul Christian Fellowship, 2238 Courtney Avenue in Norfolk, Virginia, 23504. Here bringing the good news, here to encourage you, to empower you, to engage you, to edify you and educate you, build you up in this new year. And so we like that you would comment, like these pieces, subscribe to this channel, this YouTube channel, and blow us up, blow us up. Send these pieces to somebody that you think that may help them, because we hope that we will encourage anybody that listens or anybody that see us or come and visit with us at 11 a.m. on Sunday mornings. We're here until about 12:30 in the afternoon. And come and visit with us and fellowship and worship with us. We're here on Wednesday evenings at 7 to 8:30. And so come on out and visit with us if you're nearby, or if you're as near as north, as close as Richmond, coming through this area, or down south, coming up here, coming up north in the Mid-Atlantic. We'd love to have you come and fellowship and partake with us in the breaking of bread. This morning, I want to do something because I see this in the body of Christ. I see this in Christendom in a whole, and it's interesting, and it's frightening. It's dangerous. And so I want to talk about the fear of God today. I'm like, what are you fearing coming into 2026? Like, are you bringing some past fears and anxieties and worration and doubt and disbelief with you into 2026? Or have you prepared yourself to get focused and fear the Lord, which means to reverence God? That's what fearing the Lord is reverential awe, and to fear him, what he may do concerning if we're living in sin. If we're living in sin, I dread to think of what might happen to me, because you don't know. It's a such thing as future consequences and hidden consequences, and they will catch you. But in Genesis, it talks about sin crouching at our door. And so sin is always there. And because of the fact that we're fallen and it's a part of our nature, we're innate. It's called innate. And it's a part of who you are. It's a part of your makeup, your MO. Has nothing to do with your DNA, your blood type, or nothing like that, but it has everything to do with heart issues. And so what are you fearing this morning? What are you fearing besides the Lord this morning? And I'm talking about a healthy fear. I'm not talking about the boogeyman fear. I'm not talking about being afraid of Dracula and Frankenstein and the werewolf. We ain't talking about that stupid stuff. That mess. It's not Hollywood. Monsters are monsters, but everything that you see behind that kind of stuff are demons. Demons are behind all of that kind of activity. In the music industry, in Hollywood, demons are behind all of that stuff. That's demonic influences behind that stuff. Paul talks about it in Ephesians chapter 6, when he talks about principalities and powers, rulers of the darkness of this world, and spiritual wickedness in high places. So we even talk about in the government. We even talking about in business, these CEOs, these multi-billionaires, these trillionaires, these Arabs, these Arabians that control oil, and, the Putins of the world. These cats are super rich, but they are seeking power. They're seeking power, and they want to influence that power and their influences over people. And a lot of times when you think about it, just like what Putin is doing in Ukraine right now, is to try to get those people to surrender that whole country, Ukraine, over to him through bullying. He's a bully. And so he's using this mass project of war, military tactics, war, to try to make these people fear him so that they would surrender and give up. So what are you fearing today? Let me read something to you from Proverbs So Proverbs chapter 1 says these words. In verse 7 it says, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge, but fools despise wisdom and instruction. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge. What type of knowledge? Not secular, not high school or middle school or college or none of that. Not that type of knowledge, but knowledge of God, knowledge of the Word, knowledge of the Bible itself, knowledge of the truth from error, so that you can distinguish truth from error. But that type of knowledge, it says, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge, but fools despise wisdom and instruction. So it is fools who despise God. In Psalms 54, it says that the fool says that there is no God. And so, that's what the despising is about. And that's what despising wisdom and instruction is about, is that, the fool says that there is no God. But what this says, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge. And so if you fear the Lord thy God, it begins knowledge. It is this overarching theme of the entire Bible. It's reverence for God. That's what the fear of the Lord is. It is submissive fear. It is admiring God. It's reverential awe. That's what the fear of the Lord is. It helps us to become progressive in our pursuit and our relationship to God. It helps us to come to know him better as not only our God, but our creator, sovereign, our Lord, our master, holy, righteous, and watch this, a God of judgment. He's a God of wrath. He's the God of justice. And he is the God of suffering, because he brings us comfort. He does all those things. He comforts us when we go through trials and tribulations and testings, and when we go through troubles and storms and all of that stuff, whatever it is, marital situations, whether it's our kids going off the deep end, whether it's, people that we know with addictions, loved ones, our siblings, people we care about, people we know in the church that are struggling and they're weak because why? They have no real reverence for God. They have no fear of the Lord. They don't fear God. And so we're missing that in Christendom on today. We're missing it, and fear is the opposite of God's faith. Faith is what we hold as Christians, as believers. Faith is the substance of things hoped for. It is the evidence of things not seen. So it gives us hope based on the supernatural. It gives us hope on the invisible things that God is doing and we can't see it. But guess what? Fear comes before that, though. Fear comes before that. And so a lack of faith in God means that you don't fear him. So what are you fearing? What are you fearing in this new year, in 2026? What do you fear? What did you bring in 2026 with you from 2025 that is a fear? Something that's keeping you bound, something that's keeping you in bondage or keeping you enslaved, or something that's a lie that you're living, or some sin that you're living, some type of sin that you're living that's keeping you, entangled, and you can't get out of it. You don't know how to get out of it. You don't know how to get out of this particular relationship because you think you love this person, but it's lust. It's not real love. It's not the love of God. And you don't fear God enough to ask God to help you. You don't fear God enough to pray to God, to ask God to take the addiction away. I know it's a whole bunch of you out there right now you brought pornography into 26 from 25. You brought drinking, alcoholism. You brought drugs. You do drugs. All that stuff you brought from 2025. You didn't know how to leave it back there. You didn't know how to get out of it. And you don't know how to focus on asking God for that help that you need in order for him to fix it. Now, he's the only one that can fix you. because he created you. You talk about the clay and the pot, the potter and the clay. So God is the potter. He's the potter. He's the one that makes the clay, and he makes it into whatever he wants to. And so the clay can't ask him, what are you doing? How you do this? And what are you doing? And what do you think you're doing? And I don't want you in my life. See, if you don't fear God, you're letting God know that you don't need him. You're letting him know that he's not God. You got another God, and he'll step back. And he'll wait to see if that idol God, that imaginary God you made up in your mind, he'll step back and let you get in a position where you have to cry out to the true and living God. He'll step back just to see how long will it take you to understand that that idol God that you worship, that you've made up in your mind, can't answer prayers, can't heal you, can't deliver you, can't provide for you. He'll do that. He'll step back. He'll take a step back, because that's what you believe, because you don't fear the Lord. You don't fear God. You don't reverence him. You won't surrender your heart, your mind, and soul and strength to God. You know, that's what you got to do in 2026. If you want to focus, if you want to get focused, that's what you're going to have to do in order to fear God. Reverence God. Reverence him. Fear him. And this is a healthy fear. And it's not like, it's like a parent and a child. It's like the parent, if the parent loved that child like they say they love them, then they're not going to let that child do whatever that child wants to do. There's going to be boundaries set. There's going to be rules. There's going to be regulations. There's going to be restraints. Because what? It protects us. When God gives us rules and regulations, and he gives us restraints and things of that nature, he loves us so much. Watch this. He does not want you to go out there and self-destruct. Guess what? Without God's rules, regulations, and restraints, guess what? You'll self-destruct. And he knows, because he created you. You're the creature. You're not a creator. You're the creature. He's the creator. And he's sovereign. He's in control of everything. But guess what? Sometimes he'll step back. He loves you so much, he'll step back and let you self-destruct. Now, who wants to do that? But people commit suicide every day. That's not the fear of God. That's just, you want to call it a mental illness? You want to call it a sickness? Okay, let's call it mental illness. Let's call it a sickness. But I guarantee you, for those who think about committing suicide, if you cried out to God, if you reached out to God in prayer and asked God to come and live in your heart and come and change you and live in your, he'll do it. He'll do it, and he'll take that stuff away from you. I've been there before where I wanted to commit suicide. I've been there before. But I cried out to God. I cried out to God, and I wasn't saved. I wasn't born again. I wasn't living for the Lord at the time. I was in the world. I just was doing so much crazy stuff. I just was tired of living. But God. So what are you fearing? What are you fearing in 2026? Paul tells us in Timothy's writings, he says, God did not give us the spirit of fear, but of sound mind. And he's given us love, to love and be in our right minds. But he did not give us this spirit to be intimidated by Satan or the demons, the demonic influences, or these world governments that are, he didn't give us the spirit of fear, to fear that if you walk on your job tomorrow and they hand you a pink slip after 30 years or 35 years of service, loyalty, and then all of a sudden they don't need you anymore, no servant pay, nothing, no benefits, nothing, just cut you off. What you going to do? Because you're going to fear that you're going to lose your house because you got a mortgage, or you're going to get put out and get evicted from your apartment because you have rent. You can't pay that car note. You can't put no food on the table. You got 4, 5 kids. You don't have no food stamps or snaps, or you don't have no assistance from the government, welfare, or get a check. What you going to do? And you're going to fear just losing everything. And it just may come to that. But guess what? Got good news for you. God did not give you the spirit of fear. For us believers, us Christians, us believers, we do not have the spirit of fear. He's given us a spirit of boldness. He's given us a spirit of courage. He's given us the spirit of his son, Jesus Christ. Paul tells us in Romans chapter 8, verse 29, that we are being conformed to the likeness of his son, Jesus Christ. And so he didn't give us the spirit of fear. Let me close with this because we got to go now. But let me close with Romans chapter 12 and help you to get the fear of the Lord in your start of this 2026. Let me show you something in Romans real quick. And hopefully this will help you to get started on the right path. Hopefully this will help you to be delivered or healed in some way. But look at Romans chapter 12. This is Paul's writings. Verse 1 says, I beseech you, therefore, brethren, by the mercies of God. So let's start with the mercies of God. Let's start with his mercies. That's stuff that's undeserved. The mercies of God. So what sin and temptation and all the other negative and evil stuff has done, we deserve the cross, not Jesus. We deserve the cross. He never sinned. He never did anything wrong. Never spoke a wrong word, thought a wrong thought, or none of that. By the mercies of God, that you may present your bodies a living sacrifice. I'm trying to help you get started in the fear of the Lord. Holy, so that's fearing God. All right, living sacrifice. Holy, acceptable to God, which just means pleasing God, the way that we live, the way we conduct ourselves, the way we behave, the way we think, the way we speak. It says, which is your reasonable service. Why is that? Because of the mercies of God. You ought to want to serve God with all your might, with all your life, with every capability, every skill, every talent, every gift you have. You ought to want to serve God. Why? It's because he spared you from condemnation. He spared you from doom. He spared you from eternal death, eternal condemnation, going to hell. He spared you. So guess what? Your reasonable act of service, your reasonable act of worship should be to fear the Lord, fear God, and serve him and serve others. And do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. See, it's a lot right there. I don't have time to break it down, but guess what? It's speaking about fearing God, reverencing God. James 4:8 says, draw near to God and he'll draw near to you. That's what this is, that you may prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of God. I'll stop right there. So how are you going to get started in the new year in 2026? The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge, but fools despise wisdom and instruction. So if you're being disobedient coming out of the gate, if you're being tempted and you're falling for it, if you're living in sin, and I'm telling you now, there's consequences behind it. I just shared with you, there's future consequences and there's hidden consequences. Both of them gonna catch you. You ain't gonna know you don't know when it's gonna drop on you, when it's gonna hit you. But when it hit, it's gonna hit hard. Now, watch this. The mercies of God are on you right now. That's why you feel like everything is okay. You don't feel like nothing is wrong. But I trust and believe that sowing and reaping, it works. Sowing and reaping, it works. If you sow something, whether it's good or bad, you're going to reap what you sow. And that works. It's God set it off in the universe. It works. And so you ain't going to get away. You're not going to escape the consequences. They're hidden. Some of them are hidden. And that's scary. That's very scary. But the future consequences are even more scary to me, because that means that God has allowed enough time to lapse where you think that he forgot you. That's what you think. He forgot all about it and he just let it go. Oh, 2 years later, bam, something happens. I'm talking about shaking you up. I'm talking about shaking you to the core. I'm talking about wake up call. But it was probably something you did and you thought he forgot it and it caught you in the future. Yeah. So anyway, listen, we're getting ready to go. I hope that you've been encouraged. on this morning. And I hope that you will get it, all throughout the scriptures. And there, all throughout the Old Testament, New Testament talks about the fear of God, the fear of the Lord. And that's what Christendom is missing right now. The church is in an apostate. The book of Jude. Read the book of Jude. It's only 25 verses. It's a small book, small chapter, 25 verses. But read it because it talks about the state of the church today. And it's an apostate church. And even when you look in Revelations chapter 1, 2, and 3, when you look at how Jesus dealt with those 7 churches, you will see those pieces. You will see it. It's happening in the church today, in Christendom. And then when you go to Romans chapter 1, read that whole chapter, you will see it again. You will get this glimpse, this embodiment of what's taking place in Christendom right now. And so anyway, we hope and pray that you will be, empowered, edified by this. Look, the fear of the Lord, you can't miss. If you tap into the fear of God, you cannot miss. You won't miss it. And he's waiting for you this morning. He's waiting for you in 2026 to get your house in order. He's waiting for you to make your peace. Make your peace with him and trust him. Don't trust all the other stuff that you fear. Trust the Lord and fear God. All right, until the next time, grace, peace, and mercy be yours until we meet again.